If you knew that you were the witness at this incredible movie and that everything happening to you was like Indiana Jones in a movie, you would never really be stressed. That is the greatness of the total Raja Yoga approach to stress management. Because in the Yoga Sutras, that's who they tell you you are. Right after, say, yoga is the control of the thought forms in the mind, they tell you what happens when you learn to control the thought forms in the mind. When you can control your reaction to what happens in your life, your mind smooths out, and what do you see? Lo and behold, you turn around, stop directing your energy out into the outside world and the grosser bodies, and you experience yourself all the time as peace and bliss. That is really stress management. It doesn't come better than that. And that's what we're all here to do, right? And there are a number of very beautiful attitudes that are expressed in the Raja Yoga Sutras that can be practiced in the midst of your Hatha Yoga practice so that you can learn to practice them in the midst of your daily life. So I picked just a few. Literally the whole book, the whole Raja Yoga Sutras book, is about doing just this, is about taking one little attitude at a time and saying, you know, I think I can get control over this one. I think maybe this week I'm going to try this attitude and get control over that thought form in the mind. So instead of feeling totally victimized and out of control, you pick a little tiny step at a time and work on it. So let's study a few of these attitudes just for fun before I run out of time. The first one is the issue of control. If you think about a situation, in some textbooks they say, okay, there's a difference between a predicament and a problem. A predicament is a situation in which you have absolutely no exterior control. And a problem is a situation in which you have any degree of control, from very little to very much, to 100% control over it. So very, very few of our experiences in life are really predicaments. There are very few things that classify as predicaments. And one of our difficulties is that we walk around a lot of the time mentally turning problems into predicaments. Turning situations in which we have a lot of control into situations in which we feel we have no control, and we're spinning our tires over feeling helpless and out of control. So one of the things that you want to learn to do is to ask yourself when you're awfulizing, how much control do I really have over this situation? Now this is something you can learn to do in your practice of Hatha Yoga. You can get into a pose and say, whoa, I can't get any farther than this. I've been practicing for 15 years and I just can't seem to get my head any closer to my knee than this, right? So ask yourself, now, what kind of control do I have over this posture? Let's just think about it for a second. Maybe you're really stiff in the back of the leg, right? You got your leg flat against the floor, your toe up against the ceiling, and it's just blocking you right here. Well, where is the stretch coming from? Some of it's coming from right here, right? You can add or subtract stretch in the back of the leg at the ankle. You can add or subtract stretch in the back of the leg at the hip, not to mention the knee, but we keep the knee on the floor. That's cheating if you pick it up, right? So let's say, okay, I'm stopped here, but I've always done it with my foot right up like this. Why don't I take the pressure off, breathe into the back of my leg, and see if I can get lower and lower, and then very gradually start adding a little more torque on the ankle, right? So you start to break down your Hatha Yoga practice into component parts and see, okay, can I add a little more here, take off a little there, compensate? Where can I exercise some control to get past the point where I feel I have no control? Now, when you start to learn to do that with your own physical body, you start to learn at look at exterior situations, right? Someone brought up the instance of children. You may have a pattern of reacting with your children where you feel like if such and such happens, they're completely out of your control. And you may discover that you can add or subtract one little element to it and find a way to get their cooperation, engage their own personal motivation in changing the situation. So the imagination starts to get trained to look for little areas in which you can bite off a little bit of control and gradually move on to others. Then there's another thing you can learn through your Hatha Yoga, and that's called self-talk. In yoga, you would say more pratipaksha bhavana, right? In stress management, they say, watch what you're assuming and watch what you're saying to yourself in a stressful situation. Are you saying to yourself, oh, I'm such a rotten Hatha yogi, I'm never going to get any better? Then you're never going to get any better. Why? Because that's what you're telling yourself, right? What you affirm, you become. As you think, so you become. Hatha yoga really is a great way to find out what's going on in the mind and to start to tell yourself something different. In yoga, there is this wonderful, wonderful practice, which is called pratipaksha bhavana, or raising the opposing wave. If you see the wave, the thought form of, I'm never going to get any better coming up, you raise the opposing thought form. Every day, in every way, I am getting better and better, right? So you see this enormous thought form of discouragement coming, and you raise the opposing thought form of encouragement. For example, you can say to yourself, okay, just think, I may be only this far, but at this exact moment in time, I'm stretching out my back, I'm avoiding varicose veins by really pumping the muscles in the back of the leg to get back to the heart, I'm counteracting the aging process, I am doing so many wonderful things for my body. And your body goes, oh yeah, that sounds pretty good. Let's do it a little more, right? Instead of programming in negativity, program positivity into your body in your Hatha Yoga practice and watch your body and your mind open up like a flower to the positive suggestion. Blossom before your eyes and stretch in places where your mind has been keeping you from stretching instead of your physical form. Now, if you learn to do this in your daily life, you can start to practice that at work. I'll never get a raise, right? Day by day, my performance will prove that they don't want to lose me, and I'll get a raise. Very, very simple things like that. Program the mind to raise the opposing wave, and you'll be practicing Raja Yoga. I'm totally trapped in this situation. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I am the immortal self, or Atman, right? Raise the opposing wave and see how the body and the mind respond to all situations as being fun. Another really good one, because there are some situations that are really predicaments where what you do will have no effect over the situation as such. I shouldn't say that, but on the gross level, it can sure be convincing sometimes. One of the great practices of yoga is to practice contentment. One time, one of our school children got up and gave a talk, and he started his talk with a riddle. And he said, what is the greatest happiness? Contentment. Why is contentment the greatest happiness? Because contentment means being okay and being happy with what is. So if you've really learned contentment, no matter what is, you will be happy, right? It is a happiness that isn't dependent on what's going on externally. Now, Hatha Yoga is a really, really great place for learning contentment. If you come into a pose and can't seem to be making any progress, or you have a chronic weakness or an injured part that just doesn't seem to respond, Practice pouring loving contentment into your relationship with your body. Practice feeling that this obstacle is a challenge to help you to open your heart to yourself, to pour love into yourself exactly as you are, to be peaceful and contented with your practice exactly as it is today and right now. And if you learn to do that, you can learn to do that with your spouse, with your children, with your bills, right? Contentment. Be happy and being accepting of what is a tremendous, tremendous, powerful attitude in life that really will mean you are a happy person all the time. There are many other attitudes you can integrate into your Hatha Yoga practice. Non-greed, for example. That is to say, why do I have to be a perfect Hatha Yogi? Can I be accepting of this and not be greedy to always be better, always be progressing? Non-goal orientation. Be here now. Hatha Yoga has a wonderful way of cutting through past and future and side trips and just bringing you into the present moment. Capturing the mind from where it's running around and bringing it back. Sometimes your obstacles are your biggest friend in your Hatha Yoga practice. You can just be spinning out and daydreaming, and all of a sudden, oops, your hip starts hurting, and it brings you right back to the present moment. So the obstacles can be your greatest buddy for capturing the mind and make it present to the present moment. Non-jealousy, not comparing yourself with that other guy in the Hatha class who is so much better, right? Keep your eyes closed, keep your focus within. All these wonderful, wonderful attitudes, and of course, there's always tapasya. Burning and feeling the benefits. Go for the burn, as Jane Fonda would say, or burn up those toxins, as Sri Gurudev would say. You literally are, in your practice of Hatha Yoga, burning up some of the negative things you put into your body. Maybe you ate a little too much this, or a little too much that. Maybe you strained yourself. And now through your practice, through your discipline, you're starting to burn up or purge out that old karma. And if you learn to do that, you can learn to accept some of the suffering, some of the challenges, some of the burning in your daily life as a way of purging out things that you have done in the past that make your life difficult, that make you sick and unhappy. So you see, in your regular old Hatha Yoga practice, you can develop very, very greatly a lot of mental attitudes that are some of the key attitudes of Raja Yoga. And if you learn them in your practice, you'll learn to practice them in your daily life.